know if anyone can hear me, but I can't hear anyone else.
Hey, can you hear me now? Jeff?
I can now, yes, perfect.
Awesome.
Yep, I'm here.
We were waiting for you, my friend.
Sorry about that.
Okay. The only one that's not here that's supposed to be is Jessica Davis and Don. And I hear them coming out, so we may be able to get going here in a matter of a moment. Yep, here comes Jessica.
Perfect.
Hey, Don. Hey, Jessica.
No worries.
Morning, Don.
We're all late
Jessica?
compared to that time. Really.
All right. So, Jeff, you're the only one on the Zoom link right now, although Ty Brent may join us. And I am excited to be back. You know, 1 month I was on Zoom. Last month I was not here at all. So I feel disconnected. And when I feel disconnected, it means that I need to reacquaint myself with things. And I think that it would be a good time. I took the entire presentation that we've been working on over 2 years, put some updates in it, with the idea that with these updates, it'll give us a skeleton for furthering our writing of the plan. Jason has agreed to continue to develop the plan the way he has done the recreation strategy. And, oh, a little feedback there. Okay. And so what I thought I would do is go through slide by slide, especially as we get into some of the details of the slides, so that we can focus on any updates that we have. And Jimmy, I know that you have some updates on some housing that hopefully you can share. Fred Sanford was talking to me about a couple of groups that he has interested. Maybe you can give us an update on that. All right. I'm going to have to back off of this. Excuse me a second, guys. I'm going to come out of that for a second, and I'm going to go do it this way. So, are you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Sorry.
No
And
worries.
Susan, it wasn't me.
It was me. It was me. It was about housing, though. It was about housing.
It's always the girls that cause the problems.
Oh, sure.
It's been that way all my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
No, it's all,
All right. So this is a background slide that we use in our public presentations. So what we've been doing is we have a public presentation and then we have a detail. And today we're going to slip out of that public presentation and go into some of the details of each of the strategies. Okay. So that's a background slide that everybody knows and uses. There's the committee member slide. There's the vision. And we have the vision two ways. The way we present it publicly is this. Lancaster County is a highly desirable place to live, work, and play, which is from Julian. And that's what he sees in 2035. And some of the bullets that we use for public presentation are economically successful, known for heritage, arts, water, and nature-based recreation, a vibrant school system focusing on family values, safe and affordable living venues for everyone, a business-friendly environment where job creation is abundant, and volunteerism. So we go into our critical slide about the population where we lost 902 people in the decade between 2010 and 2020. And I'm saying this out loud because Jeff is driving, and so he won't know where we are.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So our critical workforce down 902 people. I was actually looking at the study that Visions did in the period of 2000 to 2010. And during that period of time, we did a study that combined Lancaster and Northumberland County. And those two counties combined in that era was down 670 people in that same age group, and down about 200 children. So, Jess, when you look at this slide, you see our critical workforce is down by 900 people in a decade, and 178 less students. If you go back to the year 2000, what was about, do you have any idea, recollection, estimate of what the school system numbers, total enrollment was?
I don't know. I
No.
can find out though.
Yeah. But our total enrollment is down how many in the last, whatever period of time you can give me?
I would say maybe 120, probably in the past 6 years.
So down 120
That's very
kids in the
rough.
last, that would make sense based on that number there.
Yeah, that's a rough estimate.
Yeah, yeah, that's all we're talking about is rough. Now, some of those children have gone to like Middlesex, few to,
We have more kids who are coming to us from out of county than are leaving.
Oh,
To
good.
go to out of county. So I don't have those exact numbers. We have quite a few kids that are out of county right now in Lancaster.
okay,
I don't know the exact number of kids who are leaving our county to go to another
Okay.
county.
okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say here, this is just not a 10-year trend. We got a 20-year trend going on. And you know, it's like trying to turn around a battleship or Jimmy's new 53-foot Hatteras. It takes some space, right? It takes some time too, right? So our initiative, as everyone knows, is to increase the population in the targeted work group population of 20 to 55 by 20% by the year 2035. So we have a slide in the public presentation of why it matters. And that slide talks about impacts on our quality of life, the loss of businesses and trades in the community, employers not able to maintain convenient hours due to staffing shortages, decreased demand for goods and services, and an inability to recruit, and the employees especially. Increases in the financial burden on our health and wellness facilities, aging population, places additional demands on county government to provide emergency and other services, higher taxes on the remaining population as the county decreases in number of landholders and takes other properties in under non-payment of taxes, and the school system receives less funding based on state formulas, placing additional tax burden on the citizens of the county. So we came up with solutions that included good jobs, affordable housing, a dynamic school system, building a business-friendly environment, and recreational facilities and amenities that are attractive to our target age groups. We identified 6 major strategies: broadband access to every household by 2023, December 2023, creation of a business-friendly environment through public-private partnerships and tax incentives. We haven't worked on lots of that yet. Dynamic and an innovative school system with outstanding facilities, and that is happening. Housing available for all, which I believe workforce housing is one of our most critical issues right now. And then age-appropriate recreation and lifestyle. We've got several initiatives going there and several that need to happen that I'll talk about a little later on. And the public communications to all county residents and officials. And we've identified those in 3 areas. Public speaking, I think Susan, Jeff, and I have been doing most of that. In fact, we're addressing the school board next week
On Monday.
on Monday evening with the school board. And then we've been to each of the town councils. We've been to the Irvington Business Association. We've been to the Chamber of Commerce. We've had focus groups. We've got a web page that is being created, and we have a publication to send out to all citizens. So those are the strategies. So I'm going to go back now into slides we haven't looked at in probably a year. And so I wanted to go through with some of the updates I've done, plus feedback from you all as to what we're missing on these detailed slides at this point in time. Because if we're going to get Jason to help us write this plan, we really need to get the details in order to him. All right, so as I talk about this, Jeff, any of your comments and anyone else's are going to be welcomed. Strategy 1, is broadband access to every household. And under the detail here, technology continues to drive every aspect of living. The pandemic has magnified the pace of change in our society, with people now working from home and children and adults being educated through online resources. New work and home population will bring their job with them for quality of life that is attractive to them. Even those not working or using technology for education are still extensive users of technology for shopping and recreation. And the county government created a broadband authority that has developed an extensive plan and has created partnerships to reach the remaining 2,700 unserved homes by December of 2023. All right, so that's what the slide says. Let's talk about changes to it, updates to it.
Paul, just a thought here. I think the question that the audience is going to be asking from this slide, or the takeaway they're wanting, is, when can I have X? And so I think the key that we need to expand on is the work that the Broadband Authority is already doing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel there. But I think being able to explain that the goal is to reach unserved homes. There are 2,300, maybe 1,500 of them are already covered, whatever the math is. But I think we can use the work that the Broadband Authority is already doing, because we're really answering the question, reaching unserved. We're not answering the question, how do I get faster speed at my existing service?
Right.
Or if we are trying to ask that question, answer that question, there's a different kind of homework to do.
Right. So, Don, does their website give the number, a map right now to when houses can come online?
They don't have the exact date yet from All Points Broadband. All Points Broadband will be moving in the county to construct the last mile beginning in January. At that point, we will know, we don't even know which end of where they're going to start at when they move into the county. So the Broadband Authority can't give specifics right now on this area is going to be served before that area. They don't know that. They won't know that until early in 2023.
So is that number still about the same, 2,700?
2,700 is the number. Everything is still on track. It'll all be done by December of 2023. Dominion has completed their middle mile construction, and All Points Broadband will be moving in early 23 to complete the last mile. They'll have multiple subcontractors as well, just as Dominion did. Dominion had, I think, 3 other subcontractors under them hanging the fiber on their poles earlier this year. So the Broadband Authority can't get that information right now, where APB is going to start when they move in. But in early 23, the picture will become much clearer.
All right. what is Breeze Line doing with all the fiber they're laying? Do you know?
Breeze Line sees that they have competition coming, so they are upgrading their existing services throughout the county in a lot of places. They're doing that on their own because they know they have competition and all points broadband coming. So there are two VATI grants that Breeze Line is a part of in Lancaster with 3 other counties, but they're also upgrading a lot of their services on their own.
Okay. And I noticed they've run cable over the summer down into Weems. Not cable, but fiber.
The only comment I have on this is about providing access to future growth. Like, if a new neighborhood is developed or gets developed, will that be included in future, some way to incorporate some language here that will say that future developments will be hooked up as well, or guaranteed access?
Well, I think if the numbers are there in the development, Breeze Line or APB would service them.
I don't think it can be a matter of numbers, much like it is with the unserved. It's a matter of, like, if one of them needs to service them, and we need to put in language to try to force them to do so. Not that we can, but I think we need to have language to that we fully support that future expansion of broadband be access to everybody. Or future growth also be within, somehow to word that in there.
Yeah, so if we have
It's just a
lines,
thought
if
in
we
there.
have lines strung throughout the entire county, and someone develops a 100-acre parcel along there, isn't there a highly likelihood that the
Yeah.
line's gonna go right past that subdivision?
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, I'm more thinking of the stuff that's already approved and on the books. I think if this board approved any future divisions of subdivisions of any kind or any developments, it would require the developer to make that a requirement of them in the approval.
So how can we address that? Do we want to address that as a component of this strategy so that when it goes to the board for public comment and then in front for vote, that it contains that language? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think it would be kind of important to have something along those lines added to it. We're writing a plan for 2035, and we're writing it on what we know today. But what we want to have is universal access forever to everybody who's ever here. And as growth occurs or new things happen over the next 20 years, then it would be nice for future boards to be able to have some sort of teeth to push these developers.
All right.
Maybe you could just add another bullet that says something about zoning ordinance amendments in the future should be developed to ensure that there is universal access to broadband for all future development, or something like that.
Okay. All right, I think I got the gist of that, and I will add another bullet to this, and then obviously when we get finished adding all these bullets, I'm going to circulate it via email for everyone to look at. I may change the color on all the changes, maybe do it in red or green or something else, so we know where all the changes occur, okay? All right, let's move on to the second strategy, the housing market. And what this slide says now, Jeff, is this. The housing market over the past year has been very strong nationally and locally. We need to modify that because it is slowing down. Prolonged low interest rates and an emerging population of millennials moving from apartments are driving the market. Locally, the market has been driven by those wanting a more rural environment as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This changing demographic has radically altered the availability of housing in the county. There is currently very little workforce housing stock available and virtually no rental units. So the front part of that, I think we need to update. The second part is pretty much still true. And then we go into several bullets here, Jeff. We're aware of a couple of private developers that are looking into new residential construction, which may help the current situation. I have footnote here for Hills Quarter as that project has started, but it's not much help in the workforce category, as it turns out. Private development will not make any long-term commitments unless there is consistent number of people entering the county for work or retirement. Having rental units available is essential and may require public-private partnership. And creative uses of solar siting agreement proffers to establish construction grant programs needs to be investigated. So, what do you think about this one, guys?
Yeah, Paul, I agree that we need to recraft that intro statement, to just sort of say that over the last few years, we've benefited from growth, but that there are signs of slowing because of pending recession and high rates.
I would also include that most of these bullets they're just kind of vague. They don't really speak to doing anything.
Right.
They don't at this point.
And so it would be more like the first one could be changed to be work with private developers to develop new residential construction.
Right.
Instead of just that vague statement of we're aware of. No, we need to be actively working and recruiting and doing what we can to encourage those developers to come here and develop their sites.
Good point.
Yes, and Jimmy, I know you've had a couple of conversations. Can you comment on any of that at this point?
Yeah, I can give you some updates.
And would this be, the updates hopefully will be appropriate to add into the slide?
Some of them might be.
Okay.
So in terms of Hills Quarter, Stetson Homes appears to have sold 20 homes in the last, since they've at Hills Quarter so far. I think that's far exceeding my expectations of what they would hit. Even with the increase in interest rates, I think they've sold about 8 homes in the last 60 days. So what they're saying is that this is one of their strongest markets because it's more of a retirement market and people are paying cash. So the raise in interest rates are not affecting their sales. And so
A realtor told me that the other day, too.
Yeah.
They haven't seen much of a slowdown because most of their buyers are cash buyers.
Right. So and you're right, it's not workforce housing. Before Stateston got into Hills Quarter, where people had, some people had paid, close to, over $100,000 for their lots, and when they built their homes, they had a lot in there. But houses in Hills Quarter retired the Stateston entering the market. Houses were suppressed, and they weren't exceeding 300,000. Stateston's now selling homes up to $700,000 in there. So it's been it's been great to have them in there. Susan's aware of this, and Paul, you're aware of it, that we've got a realtor, Fred Sanford, who has a place in Irvington, lives down in Norfolk. Fred's been bringing in some people. Yesterday I had a meeting with a man, Jay Tingle Englehart. He had also met with Susan. He represents a nonprofit housing firm out of D.C. that's looking to build they build workforce housing. So yesterday I met with him, told him that the county would find this to be a cooperative environment if he wanted to pursue that. And we talked about some sites, and that's in the early stage, but there is somebody out there talking about one. This is actually the second person I've met with, but
Yeah.
he seems more credible.
Yeah, Fred told me he had two people interested.
Right.
This group was actually doing something in Urbana, I believe.
That's right. They were looking at doing something in Urbana. I'm not sure that that's really come into maturity over there, but they have experience. So that's good. And one of the things that I explained to him too, when we think about, he has to go sort of, this is low income, targeted just where we want it to be. And so, and I gave him all the stats. For example, at Bay Aging, we have 12 apartment projects. We have 1,000 people on our waiting list. Now, some of those could be double dippers, but it just speaks to the need for housing. Yeah. Now that's, that's low
That's
income.
what, 12 counties, though?
Yeah, 10 counties, yeah. And Bay Agent's just opening up a project over in Gloucester called Daffodil 2. It's just opening in the next couple of weeks, and these are, modest size apartments targeted to low income, and just to give you sort of an indication, I asked them the other day, what did that cost all in per unit, and it was $200,000 per unit is what it cost them. And they were less than 1,000 square feet in size, so it sort of speaks to what construction cost is. These are all in one big building, and we already own the land. We had utilities right up to the site because it was an addition to another project we already have over there, Daffodil 1. But it gives you some idea of sort of what the cost parameters are these days.
So how about the Mercer Place? Any developments there?
No conversations yet because they're so distracted with these other projects. Mercer's Place, in order to build another building in Mercer Place, we're gonna have to raise the original Mercer Place, I think they raised like $750,000
Yes.
of downstroke cash in order to be able to buy down the rate. And so it require that type of cash infusion, and they just haven't had the opportunity to start focusing on a tax credit program with that buy down yet. But it's being looked at, but it's not on the front burner right now. Let's see, what else? I talked to Jerry Davis. When we had a recent meeting, a PDC economic meeting with Jerry and group in town at Compass about a month ago, Jerry mentioned that he had gotten some funding to help with some apartments in Whitestone. I think we may have touched on that at our last meeting. So I touched back with Jerry. Jerry said that, let me quote him. He said that the Northern Neck PDC received a $1 million grant from Virginia Housing to bring to market at least 10 housing units that we made available to low to moderate income persons. So this is right in our workforce. 80% of AMI or below. Our plan is for these funds to be offered incentive grants to building property owners to provide affordable rental housing in the business revitalization districts and supplement other revitalization strategies that are being carried out in those districts. The incentive grants are to be used to renovate or construct rental units within an existing building, mostly upper-level housing. And so they're targeted this funding to the town of Whitestone. We're currently assisting the town in their business district revitalization project. The project is funded with community development block grant funds, and we've already included renovation of the existing upper-level apartments. I think there's some apartments there. They're sort of where Dock of the Bay is, along in there, those buildings. I think they're talking about renovating some apartments up there. I asked Jerry if that was using up all of that $1 million, and he said most of it has. He says, I have some funds left over, and we'll know the final cost for the units once we've committed to them. He said, if you know someone who owns an existing building with the potential to add more rental units, they should contact him. But I think the majority of those funds look like they've been spoken for, but it is going to bring some workforce apartment rentals to Whitestone. I know that Lee Self looks like he's slowly moving a little, inching forward.
He's moving forward.
And Susan,
Yes.
what do you know?
About Lee?
Yeah.
He's underway. He's working on 40 units. That is his first stage. He's got 128 designed on that parcel, and he's working on the first 40.
You think he's going to build like 8 or 10 on that first tranche, or you really think he's going to go in with all 40?
He tells me all 40. They're in 6-unit configurations.
Yeah, because that looked like a 6-unit that he's breaking.
It is, yeah. That's the first set of footers, et cetera, there. My guess is there'll probably be 2 sets right off the bat. They'll be leased. They're leased
Right off the
items.
bat? He's been doing it for a year.
There'll be 2 sets right off the bat.
I mean-
And
What time frame are we looking at?
There'll be 2 sets right off the bat. That's about all I've got, Paul. That's about all I got. No, actually,
If you count the outhouse on the property, we're right off the bat, right there.
you know, I actually talk to him probably once every week to 10 days right now, because he has broken ground. And he's under he's got some permitting requirements he's got to hit here in the next, next year or so. I'm anxious for him to move forward, and I've told him that. I want to give him every reason to get those done and complete and out in the marketplace.
Okay. So, just a thought. Jerry may have some additional funds. What's going on with the burned-out block in Kilmarnock?
That site, I have a call, Don, I have a call to you. That one from last week, that's what that's about. That property is in the midst of a whole lot of challenges around insurance. And we are going to have a get-together with Don and others to talk about how we can try to collectively move that forward, along with the property owner. But there's some considerable debate within the insurance claim about how that property can be demolished, or whether it can be demolished.
Yeah. To me,
Really?
just,
Seems weird.
not looking, just sort of looking at it from the outside, wouldn't it be awesome to take a bulldozer to that, all of that, including Cockrell's Market, and just have like
I'll rent the dozer for you, Paul. I will rent the dozer, you can get at
and
it.
just rehab that whole thing into a village or a town
Yeah.
center?
Well, to that point, what I will share with you guys is that the town has applied for and been awarded a planning grant through community development and housing at the state level. It's a planning grant that covers the footprint from Irvington Road to West Church, from Main Street back to School Street. So that entire, not only the fire area, but Cockrell's building, and kind of on either side of Irvington Road, all the way over to where we are in West Church. And that is a planning grant to completely rehab all of that square footage. All of that square footage was not included in the downtown renovation we did in '05 to '07. It kind of ended right at the, right off of Main Street. And so we have a planning grant with the state, a $20,000 planning grant that we're getting ready to kick off, and that will lead to the potential for an additional implementation grant to kind of rehab that whole area. And I think there's going to be significant public-private partnership as a result of that. And I think it will give the property owners there an opportunity to kind of re-envision what all of that could look like. And I'm hoping that that will help also push forward getting the property owner where the fire was, thinking about what that next future could really be like.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we'd like to reimagine that as opposed to just replace in kind.
I agree. I mean, it would be good, and you throw in the old barbecue place across the street with that.
Well, that's why we picked Irvington Road as the boundary.
So what is the boundary again?
The boundary is West Church, where the town hall is, the one-way street, down Main Street to Irvington Road, both sides of Irvington Road, all the way down to School. So it's that effectively 2 big blocks, from Irvington to Augusta, Augusta to West Church. And all of that is the footprint for this planning grant that we have. We just got awarded it at the end of last month. We're waiting for the state to assign us a person who will be part of the shepherding. But that's our effort to try to give this a much bigger picture view of what all of that area could look like. And hopefully, Don, with your and Jim's help, that was my call. We're calling for a summit of how can we all hold hands and push that across with whatever tool we can muster, push that across the finish line, because it's hung up. It's way hung up. And I don't know what tools we even have.
Susan, I don't think Jeff could hear you.
Sorry, Jeff, I was talking to Don. We've on my
Yeah, I
agenda.
could not hear. Thank you.
That's okay, I'm sorry, Jeff. My call to Don last week and my call to a couple property owners is we are asking for a summit of all the people who can do good to moving that project off of where it is, because it's hung up, it's stalled with with issues with the insurance company, and maybe there's some stuff we can do as local government. We need to figure that out, if we can help that property owner move the situation off the dime. We don't have the ability, I don't believe, nor want the ability to step in and do something that will hurt the property owner in terms of their settlement. On the other hand, we also need to get that building, we need to get that awful-looking situation removed. It's a huge problem in the community. But we're at a place where, we don't have a ton of legal authority to do more.
Yeah.
But that's why we're going to sit in a room with the property owner and try to understand what would be helpful as opposed to not being hurtful.
Yeah, it's interesting, when you see Tappahannock that had the fire up there, they've already cleaned that site up, it looks beautiful.
It's got grass on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just saying, what are they doing to revitalize, or what were their steps, and maybe we can reach out to them and follow.
Well, we
sort of-
can, but the biggest issue is that the property owner does not have authorization to take the structure down.
Right.
Hard to believe there's
Insurance
any
claims.
residual value there, and it looks like there's a lot.
The insurance company wants her to rebuild
Yeah.
Right.
what.
Wow.
They do, but Don, my understanding is that they want her to use some existing foundation.
Exactly,
And that is the
yes.
debate. She does not
Yes.
want to use existing foundation.
Exactly.
Wow.
And, none of us want her to put up something that would be structurally compromised,
Yeah.
6 months after doing it. But, I don't know what all the issues are at the insurance level. I really don't know if I want to know.
Who's the insurance company? Is it a local insurance
No.
company, or is it a big name insurance
So
company?
what
Neither.
would be?
Neither.
Okay. Now, understand I don't know what I'm talking about first. But what would be the issue if we can get the claims settled about the town buying out all the tenants and doing a project with a developer that may have some mixed use with apartment, like some of these town centers that are being built?
Yeah.
Retail stores, apartments, just it would be a beautiful block to do that, and a great compliment to what's already done on Main Street.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what her legal situation is. That's why we're asking to get together as to what is the compromise here. I don't know whether there's an interest in selling the property or not. That question's going to get asked. But that is one solution, is that the current owner is no longer the owner, and there's somebody else steps in to do the redevelopment.
Well, after that discussion takes place, this would be where another strategy and this thing could go in. It was have real,
Right.
like, things, attainable goals
Yeah.
and things we could work on. It would be something that would be specific.
It's just a perfect
But
spot for something
I
like
agree, it
that.
would be
Just
great.
Well-
really, really.
To
It is a
bulldoze
perfect
it.
spot for a ton of stuff, because it has, it stretches from Irvington Road to Augusta. There's some other property on Augusta that could come into play. There's a lot, if you take the macro view, and that's why we're
Yeah.
doing, that we got the grant to do that, that it's just a matter of, let's see if we can figure out what the property owner
Right.
can or is willing to do.
All right, after you have those meetings, could you send me some verbiage to
Be happy to.
document
Yeah,
in
I'm
here?
happy to.
And Jim, what about the planning grant that we're looking at?
I'll turn that over to Mr. Gill.
Good Luck Road, good luck, right?
Yeah. No, we had some password and username issues, and we're still trying to get that worked out. So, but we'll get that straight.
Right,
All right, so we don't have anything so far filed.
right.
Nothing to report on that. We had, we had it all set up, and we were issued username and passwords. I gave that to Jimmy. He went in to try to fill out that application. He couldn't get on. I tried it. I couldn't get on, and we're still trying to resolve the username and password issue, so.
Paul, I'll work on these bullet.
I'm not going to put that in.
You asked, I'm just telling you like it
Okay.
is.
But we're not saying anything about the Good Luck Road property. And I think by consensus over the last year, we really feel like a PUD with a public park would be an excellent use of that property,
Here, yeah.
right?
Put that in the recreational strategy, park is the.
Well, I saw it's in the
recreational
rec
park there,
strategy, but we need to
but
include
It
it
needs to
in
be here
here.
as well,
Yeah,
or needs to
Right.
be moved to here, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that site have a catchy name? I mean, can we call it the Good Luck Road, the Good Luck Road Project? I mean, does it
Okay.
have enough legs to it at this
Let's say,
point that we
good
can-
luck making a profit. Oh, I'm sorry, that won't work, excuse me.
Jimmy?
I think it does, I mean,
No, I'm just thinking, if it could sit there kind of as its own standalone entity, we know it's got rec, it's got housing, it's
Right.
got commercial, it's designed to be a public-private. I mean, who knows, if we put it out there may be somebody who raises their hand and goes, great, let me be the partner.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
I
thinking
mean,
if we
I
could
think-
show it as a package.
yeah, no, I think that's the next step is to try to
Right.
recruit.
And that's what we're thinking
ideas.
between, before we put it to RFP, we're thinking this planning grant will help us sort of plan that site out.
Mm-hmm.
So we know sort of what the parameters of the RFP might be.
But yeah, my feeling is like a green PUD of some kind.
Right.
And the town and the county will work together to provide the infrastructure to the site.
Right.
And then the developer will
Right.
take over and develop the site and pay us back. for
Yeah,
our
I'm just
land
thinking
investments.
in global terms for 2035, if we can kind of position that with some kind of naming that makes people realize exactly what that concept is.
If it had been developed and built in 2019, it would, every unit in the 100 units we could build on that site would
Would have been sold, they'd be occupied right now.
occupied. I'm
Right.
convinced that if stuff was actually built, it's really hard to sell, it's a lot harder to sell somebody a concept to build a home on a lot than, here's the
Just to
home,
see
it's
it.
already built, the countertops are in, the kitchen's
Yeah,
ready to
come
go.
on in.
Move in tomorrow, put your furniture in and go.
Right.
And that, especially if you're paying cash, that's really convenient to just say, here's the money, I like this house, and let's go.
well, it would be great. So
So Paul, here's
it
what I
would fall
suggest.
under
We'll
a
move that
separate
over.
bullet
but-
under a housing strategy. And there was two companion grants there. There was a planning grant and then, an implementation grant of some sort? What's the second grant you talked
can-
about?
Implementation grant, yeah.
I can just add
Implementation
some language about working to acquire grants
Yeah.
in the part that I have already developed for the recreation page, because I pretty much, it's a housing issue, but it's over on that side because it was a site with a public park potentially.
Paul, I've been making some notes too as people have been speaking, so I'll get with you on these bullet points on this section.
Okay.
Good. Let me see, a couple other updates. Let's see. Hey, I think we've been remiss in not congratulating Jessica since our last meeting on her appointment as
Here, here.
superintendent of
Yes.
schools. Congratulations, Jessica. That's great.
Hooray.
I'd like to bring something up, and this is probably right on the heels of what we've been talking about. So when it's sort of on the school thing too. So, the county came to me originally to lead the effort on building these new schools, and I put together a 20-member committee. We made recommendations, boom, boom, boom. Then the county said, okay, based on those recommendations, we know we need to be in the sewer of Lancaster, of Kilmarnock. They asked me to look at the site selections, and then I negotiated the purchase of the Good Luck Road for the county. Then subsequently, after I closed the golf course down, someone on the committee said, well, maybe we should reconsider now putting schools down at Hills Quarter. And I went, uh-oh, I'm getting scared that I'm going to be conflict of interest. I'm going to resign from the committee. I've sort of done the original assignment. If you all want to go off on this, I'm going dark. I don't need to be in on this, and I'm just afraid of conflict. I'm beginning to have that same concerns here on some stuff. It's only logical, being a real estate developer, that I may want to be putting something together on the Good Luck Road site at some point, or those types of things. I'm concerned about chairing this committee going forward because of just like with the school committee, that there could be, I don't want to be canceled out from being able to do something in the future because of conflict of interest appearance. And so I'm asking if you all would consider letting me switch committees and go to recreational maybe, since I'm working on Triway Trail, and maybe ask Ty if he may chair this committee. I just don't want to I don't want you all to look like there was a conflict of interest, and I don't want to look like there was a conflict of interest. And I don't want to be barred from being able to go in on stuff that I would normally be going in on, and, and be closed out because I'm on this committee, so.
I have no problem with that. I don't know, you all? Yeah. No, we
Is Ty amenable to that, Jimmy?
I haven't talked to him, but since he's not here, it's his fault he's not here. We could just go ahead and vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll talk to
I
him.
would agree with your assessment, Jimmy.
Right.
I think we don't want the chair of that committee to have one or two hands tied behind his or her back. So I would agree with your.
Right.
Now, what about, though, does Ty end up with a conflict because of all the land
don't-
work that he does? If
I don't
he
think
is,
I don't think he has, I mean, we want someone that's got knowledge base. He's got broad knowledge. I don't think that being an appraiser, I mean, he owns some lots and he doesn't do a lot of real estate, but he buys and sells a couple of lots, but he's not gonna be going in on the Good Luck Road site or those types of things. Well, I'll talk to him about that, but doesn't smell like a conflict of interest in terms of what he does.
well, if he's surveying.
agree.
Yeah, I just, wonder, okay, so we go into it and say, hey, Ty, why don't you go ahead and do all the survey work on this? Here's a $150,000 contract. And he's in the same position that you are at that point in time.
Yeah, but he's not a developer. I don't think, it doesn't smell like them. Let me talk it out with him, but let me just say,
I just
I'd
want,
like
if we're going to change heads, I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with where
Right.
we're going with that.
okay. Who do you think, if it's not Ty, who else do we have in our committee structure that might step over to housing?
Well, Jimmy, I'm on the committee, but I don't have the knowledge base that Ty
Yeah.
and you all have.
Yeah,
And, I just took the online conflict of interest course.
Yeah.
And just signed off on that, and I don't see that there's going to be a conflict of interest. If there were with Ty, then he could recuse himself from any kind of voting or any kind of issues.
Yeah, I guess he could at that time. I'm fine with him
Okay.
doing it. I
All
just want to make sure that we're all comfortable that he's the right person, not from a knowledge base, but because he can get some work from what happens.
right. All right, let me talk that out with him and I'll report back.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we sort of de facto say if Ty accepts the job that we're going to make those changes? Jimmy, slip
Yeah.
over to Rec? Okay,
Good, thanks.
all right. Good.
Let me see if there was anything else.
You had something going on Grace Hill, some conversations?
It's my understanding, Susan, you may know more about what's going on, Grace, or can we talk in public?
I don't think you should.
Okay. There appears to be someone who's expressing interest in Grace Hill to build some housing. Well, I think we can say that, but I don't
Yes.
think we can go into any particulars because of,
I don't think that situation's consummated.
right,
yet.
right. But that appears to be some smoke there.
Hey, Paul, this is Jeff. Just a thought, and I'll get you to reread our overall objective for housing, but maybe, we want to encourage housing in general because it's an economic driver and this is an economic development plan. And then separately, somewhat related, we want to encourage workforce housing. Can we maybe bifurcate that under that major to help us sort of refine our strategies for each of those separately, or do we want to take out the high-end housing altogether? But could you reread that overall objective for housing and see, is it restricted to just workforce or is it broader than that?
Well, our strategy really is housing for all. We were specific about that to make sure it included from the high end to the low end.
Yeah. That's a good point, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, so Paul, I'll work on those bullets.
Yeah.
and
We sort
we'll
of,
go
we
ahead and
bounced
vote
around a
strategy.
lot. I
Okay,
think
so
it'll
what I'll
help
do
us
is
refine it.
Jeff, I'll develop some verbiage around what you just mentioned to make sure that we
Yeah.
are encouraging development at all levels, like Grace Hill and Hills Quarter and those type, as well as some workforce specific.
Yeah, because the higher end of housing has
you hate to
implications
say
on
it.
our, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead,
sorry.
Jeff.
You hate to say it, but if someone reads that in our overall objective says housing for all, someone's going to chime in, LMI, low to moderate income housing too, which we've typically punted on that to try to focus on workforce. But if our overall objective is that, I don't know if we want to actively exclude that or have that, you know, I think we got enough to say grace over, but I can see somebody going, what about low to moderate income housing?
Right.
You're saying housing for all. I hate for that to be like a, you know, criticism of our plan that we're excluding a segment.
Right, I think it's important, I like that idea, Jeff, for breaking it into sort of 2 bullet points, because we all know the value of workforce housing, but the higher end housing is also critical to our employment around here. There's so many people that are employed in the construction trades that we need to make sure we're fostering that economic development opportunity also. So that's a good point.
So what, if we, are we
Correct.
going to create a position statement on low to moderate?
I'm sorry, say
Are we
that.
going to
If we're
create
saying all housing,
All
you know,
housing.
I don't know how we not at least put something out there personally. I know that's biting off a really big bite of the apple there though too.
Yeah, because if our focus is to rebuild the working age population,
So some of
I
these,
don't know
I mean, you
how
can be
low to
broader in
moderate
the-
fits in.
Broader in the discussion of the upper statement and specific in the goals below when you're targeting particular developments or particular issues that need to be more specific around this. Another thing here I don't see is like, there's a lot of approved subdivisions on the books. Do we have any account of what those are and where they're at and what developers we could work with to promote those particular sites that already are approved to be developed? That would be a specific goal or strategy. And then within that, you could have the requirements of those people to build a certain number of those units as affordable units or workforce housing or whatever levels you want within that agreement that you work out as you promote those particular avenues. But none of these things, we need to be really specific with what we're doing as kind of how I've been in the recreation. It's got to be something that's a goal that's attainable, measurable, and then otherwise, none of this is just all like ethereal to me. There's nothing here specifically saying that,
Exactly,
like,
because
the
that's where
Tri-Way
we
Trail,
work.
we can put in goals and deadlines and
Yeah.
specifics about what we want, when we're gonna accomplish them, how we're gonna accomplish them, how we're gonna fund them. We need the same things here in housing, like what projects are we gonna target, what developers are we gonna potentially work with? We can be specific or we can be more broad with that, but we need to target directly what we're gonna do so we can then measure it and then try to attain it. So
I agree,
that's my
Jason.
comments around
Yeah.
how we
Good.
get this, bring this together more and make more specific with these particular types of projects, like the thing that could potentially work with the town of Kilmarnock in redeveloping that block. That could be a specific goal. Partner with the town of Kilmarnock to redevelop the downtown area specific to those blocks.
And again, Paul, I think, to Jason's point, I think in the language that we use in this opening paragraph, or Jimmy, whoever's going to write that, these are strategies that tie back to attracting 25 to 55-year-olds. And the strategies and the kind of housing that segment needs. You know, our overall strategy and goal is not to increase people outside of that region, outside that age group. I mean, if it happens, great, but our focus to deliver 25 to 55-year-olds is to provide them with a housing strategy that achieves them getting here. We will get some additional benefits to that, but I think we've got to make sure that that language still fits the larger goal.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Good
and-
point.
Yeah.
Good, I made that.
Yeah, we've got to stick to that, because otherwise we can get off on tangents.
Well, otherwise, we're fixing housing for every possible scenario of housing, which may not get us 25 to 55-year-olds.
Yeah.
right?
But also 55-year-olds
No, that's right, you're right.
may be capable of buying $600,000 and $700,000 houses too.
But
But-
the marketplace will take care of that.
Yes.
The marketplace
I
for
agree.
private sector and people who can cash will take care of that. This effort is to how can we mobilize all those other resources we have, particularly public, private, and government, to do something that the private sector can't do. And that's what I see happening in housing. Housing market, private sector will take care of itself in a certain segment, but the places that the private sector has not been able to make it happen, for all the right economic reasons, somebody else has got to step in and augment that process if we're going to make this work.
Yeah. Well said.
And we've
I
got to
agree.
be able to make sure the strategy kind of conveys all of that nuance.
All revitalization starts with a vision and a plan, and then the partners that are part of that plan input the assets and the resources to make it happen,
And
whether
figure out how to
that's
make it happen.
cash or sweat
Sweat
equity
equity,
or whatever it
whatever,
happens
that's
to
right.
be. The pieces then come together, but it starts with a plan, and when you have even in a city, when you have a revitalization of an area that all these new businesses come into, it didn't just start from those businesses deciding, oh, I want to start X business and going to X place and starting that. It started as a conversation around a master plan, and so that's sort of the first step.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. That's why I was talking
Good.
about the in inner city Kilmarnock.
Good.
There,
Good.
that area there would make
mean,
a
it'd be
perfect
ideal for that.
revitalization
Perfect,
project.
yeah, it's,
Same
Yeah.
thing in Tappahannock, ideal for revitalization of some kind,
Yeah.
and working together through
All right.
all the partners to make
So,
that happen.
so Jimmy, if you
I
give
got
us some
those notes.
inputs.
Susan makes a really good point that the
Yeah.
higher end, the private sector will
Yeah.
take care of it.
And
But the
then,
lower end, we need to do what, to help developers do what they can't do on their own. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah, if you
really
get
good
that
point.
input,
I got that language.
Jason and I are going to get together and spend a couple hours together to sort of refine some of this.
Right.
So we'll get it
I'll send you
refined.
these notes. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. We need to move on.
All right.
Economic development, a priority at the county level. So we have a position of a assistant county administrator that we're talking about here. Position's main focus will be on economic development. It is essential the priorities be established with objectives and goals consistent with the development of this plan in order to be successful. I think we're at a point now where we can start doing that. Are we okay with trying to flesh
Is
that out?
Have you worked out?
What's that?
Have you hired the new person yet? Have you all worked that out?
Have not officially hired the new person. We are negotiating with the top candidate. The Board of Supervisors realizes that this process is going to go into early 2023.
Okay.
So,
Again, here, I think we just need to flush out more measurable, attainable
Yes.
goals that are like specific,
I think we can further develop
or at
this
least be a
topic
little
right
bit
now.
more specific.
Yeah. So I'll work
we-
with you and Jason on
You can be vague
fleshing
and
this out.
specific at the same time in a way.
Okay. And then we have this last item here. The county must be prepared to provide tax incentive and other stimulative measures to attract the types of businesses we want to attract. That falls in, I'm going to actually delete it from here, and I'm going to put it on the, this segment right here, creating a
Good.
business-friendly
That
environment.
makes good sense.
Yeah, I'll move that there. Since we're here, well, let me back up, and so go out of order. So we'll take that last paragraph there and we'll move it under the other strategy. And under education, let's talk about that a little bit, Jess. We're saying a dynamic school system will be essential in attracting young families to live here. Attractive and modern schools, key element. Fully accredited schools, innovative learning techniques, strong enrichment programs, extracurricular activities will be necessary. So we're talking about the school system, Jeff, continuing to advertise and promote successes and keep interested parties informed of their progress through marketing strategies that communicate those successes to the community as a whole. And I know you have a periodic program of sending out those red and white.
We do, but that's
Mailers.
something that we're working to
Right.
increase too. But some of that, so if I look at that, and I'm happy to take that slide, but, again, kind of going back to what Jason said, we could make that simpler at the top, and even some of those pieces at the top could be pushed down into bullets. And like the work for the second bullet, that can even be, that could be separated, because we're working on those pathways to post-secondary, so there's more involved than even just the collaboration with RCC. So when I look at that, I think the bullets would be create a strategic plan that supports those pieces up there.
Okay, so you want to take this? The last bullet there that Jess referenced, Jeff, It says workforce is a critical issue, collaboration with RCC and the Northern Neck Technical Center and the Governor's STEM Academy to continue to improve quantity and quality of workforce is essential. So we have had, some of you all aware of the fact that we've had a meeting with contractors, had over 20 contractors present. The contractors are bugging me for another meeting. In that light, Jessica, Eric Barner from the college, and myself have had a second meeting where he wants to propose what's called a 1+1 program, and we're also wanting to look at, which would be, a post-secondary program, and then a program from middle to high school level. And I'm not going to talk for Jessica, so she can tell you about those elements of the plan of what we're talking about. But 1+1 is really this. Appears like RCC has got a pilot program going on now in West Point. And in that particular program, they have some classes where the actually high school seniors are employed by a vendor of the paper mill or the paper mill itself. During which period of time, there's a course of study that they're taking dual enrollment for while working. During the summer between their senior and first year at RCC, they're continuing their employment. A second year at RCC, finishing the college portion of it to get a 2-year degree, and then coming out of that 2-year degree with a job working for that provider. We looked at the adaptation of a program like that here for rising seniors, and where they can actually be getting employed, mentorship, what mentorship?
Like an internship.
Internship, where they're making money. And we could advertise and promote that. Companion with that, there's a post-secondary level, people that are out of school without direction. And I'm talking to Eric about the possibility of developing some trades and marketing around existing programs that they are already offering, like mechanical, AC and mechanical, as well as things that we'll create as a result of the 1+1 program. Now, you want to talk about the earlier part of that, getting through guidance?
Yes, so we're working to create a plan where we're bumping everything back. So
Could you
instead
get
of-
closer to the mic,
Oh,
Jessica?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. We're working on a plan to bump everything back. So as right now, we're taking kids in like 8th and 9th grade to explore those different pathways. We're working to create a plan to bump that back to like 5th, 6th grade. Get them to understand the pathways. The 1-to-1 would be one pathway that would be available. So educating parents and kids at an earlier age to create a pathway and develop a plan for that pathway so they know where they're going throughout their secondary schooling. And when we met with the contractors, this is where those internships would come into play, or apprenticeships, and we would get those kids matched up with some of those people. I imagine through the meeting, we're meeting again with them on the 29th of November, they can identify areas for RCC if they want to create a program. So it's really identifying the pathways earlier, getting them mapped out, so it's not just, I'm going to take these classes, I'm going to take this, but hopefully in the end, that creates kids who have a plan for work after high school, or college after high school, or whichever, and that will stay here because they'll already be working with businesses and companies here. So in the bigger picture, it's going to take years to get this all mapped out, but it would hopefully increase kids who graduate from here staying here to work.
Yeah, and that falls into the job strategy too.
You can synchronize all these things together, because then you can bring them in as part of the housing, like, structure, and work with them with banks to finance and get them
Right.
into a house, and loan them the money to buy a house and complete the circle,
Yeah.
Right,
essentially.
and
Yeah.
if they have that education map set out, then by the time they're a senior or getting ready to graduate college, they're thinking about the next step instead of always playing catch-up.
Exactly, exactly. And, one of our critical workforce issues is construction trades. And so this falls really nicely, and it bundles into three of the strategies, housing, education, and employment.
Tying back to our strategies here with education and housing would be the Mercer Place building. Let's put that in our strategies to work with Bay Aging to accomplish that building.
Okay.
So we can have that as an actual strategy.
And that's a huge
I mean,
attraction.
it's needed, if we put it in our strategy, we can push to have it accomplished, and it's something attainable, and it's a real goal.
Right.
And we can
Good.
put measurements around something like that.
It's a huge attraction. And then going back to another piece, we have that early childhood center now. So the hope is now that we have that and we're moving forth from these pathways, that we can get a Grow Your Own Teachers program in here. The high school kids can go down to the early childhood center and get a taste for it, and if they like it, we can get them on that pathway to become an educator too, and hopefully keep them here.
Yeah, and we also, Jimmy, you had an idea about clubs at an early, like a hard hat club or whatever. Jessica's open to that, but we need people to volunteer to run them.
Yeah, the clubs are awesome. We used to have a vibrant selection of clubs. But with so many new teachers, it's like we're trying to get them to become solid, confident teachers, and then we're asking them to do after-school clubs. So we give them a little stipend, which is nice, but it's so much. We don't have those long-term people who they were really passionate about one thing, and they kind of took that on as their baby after school. So our clubs are lacking. They have been since
But we
before
can build that
COVID.
into the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can build that into the plan.
there's a
and-
strong
and
need for something.
articulate that, just like you're talking about with some of the other things. We're at a point now where we've had enough discussion to say, yeah, this can work, let's see what we can do to implement it.
Well, I mean,
Right.
this is where that passion comes in, so this would be a passion project for a retired builder who's
Yeah,
passionate about the
Exactly.
trade still and wants to impart his knowledge on to another generation, would
Yeah.
be the backer of such a
and we've got
club.
a lot
Give
of,
them that exploration piece of it.
Yep.
yeah,
you know?
we've got a lot of aging builders around here
You
too,
can't just
that we may
assign
be
a
able
club
to
to a
see.
teacher
Yeah,
just to give them a job. They have to be passionate about what it is they're doing, or else
Right.
the students won't be
exactly,
interested in it, or
Right.
won't really engage in it to the depth that it really is required to create that passion in them.
right,
Passion
exactly,
begets passion.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I don't mean to rush along, but we have a 90-minute rule, and we only got 15 minutes left. This is a great discussion, though, and because it's giving us foundations to further develop this plan, and now Jason and I are going to spend some time actually, as we get your inputs, creating it, adding teeth to it for us to start looking at a document that we can get in front of the Board of Supervisors. Recreation.
Hey, Paul, real quickly,
yes.
Paul, real quickly before you move on, I'll just make a statement. It was either early last week or late the week before, Go Virginia approved a grant, and it's one I mentioned to you when I saw you on the road, and it ties in workforce with the school system and the secondary level. I don't know if it overlays the one-on-one or it's complementary, but I will get that information to Jessica. I know Matthew, it's being superintendent of schools of Stafford County was the one getting the approval, but I know Matthews County, for instance, is one of the counties that's participating in it. So I'll get that information to you, Jessica.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I think Eric Barna was actually alluding to it, because he said there's some Go Virginia funds available for apprenticeships now that we can implement some of these programs at no cost that he can get the money for.
Yeah, I believe that Stafford schools are doing it at a larger scale. They're bringing people into the schools. I had talked, that's Thomas Taylor. Is that who you spoke with, Jeff?
Right, that was him, yep.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'll
No.
get you what I have.
Okay.
Now, on recreation, you can take this one, Jason. You've written a plan that's very articulate. This last bullet on this page, and Jeff, what it says is we must continue to develop partnerships with Dreamfields, YMCA's boys clubs, and introduce vibrant soccer, Little League football programs. We have had those meetings. The school system was involved. We have brought that data back here, and we talked about a position being created as a county recreational coordinator. And I've submitted some rough drafts of a job description to Don, where he wanted to incorporate oversight on some of these other multiple access water points in the job description of this particular individual. And were to bring it to the supervisors at a meeting sometime this fall to get the position approved. Now, right now, you can see what's happened. We have no soccer program. We have no youth football program. And these are two programs we really need to establish. We also talked about adult softball and adult basketball. We have facilities available to do those. The Boys and Girls Club has volunteered their gym. Dreamfields has volunteered one of their softball fields to get those programs implemented. All the players, whether it's the school system, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, they're all saying, we're happy to do it. We're happy to lend our facilities. We need someone to promote, advertise, and organize. And so, to me, in order to we're at a point where we can get this started if we can get this person and just hired and start to move some of these programs and establishing. My thoughts were, as a first priority, let's get youth football and youth soccer really moving again. I think it was one of the first years we haven't had a soccer program at the middle school.
Are we the best person at the county to manage that person currently, or would it be better for them to fund them more and them to fund?
Who to fund whom?
The county already funds these groups with contributions. Would it be more sensible at the current state? I know down the lane when we need a recreation director as we develop more of these sites, but currently, could we bring these programs up faster by allowing the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Clubs to hire the personnel and the staff needed to manage a new soccer or a league program and promote that and provide the resources for them to do that versus onboarding our own person? They're already managing
I
some
know
programs.
youth football, the school system was going to take on. And, but because of the costs involved, the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club don't want to touch that. And we need a feeder system for a high school team, or else not even worth having it, really, in the long run. And so, I don't know. I mean, is that something that the school board would take on at your level?
Having that person as an employee to do the work that we want, is that what you're talking about, Jason?
Yeah, versus having a county recreation or coordinator or whatever that would coordinate just a couple of adult programs or whatever.
The only thing I worry about that is then it becomes so school-oriented that they don't go out. Like you mentioned the Boys and Girls Club and the Y, that may even be a better route, just because otherwise it becomes a school thing versus a county.
The Boys and Girls Club and the Y are not going to touch youth football. They've said that. The insurance reasons, costs for equipment and all that. If we
But this person wouldn't just see football, correct? They would be overseeing.
Yeah, the recreation coordinator would look at all of these programs, including the resources that the county is developing for water access.
I mean, before onboarding this person, there'd be a lot of questions to answer about all those costs. If the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club don't want to do it, the cost, then what would be the risk and the cost to the taxpayers for the Board of Supervisors assuming those roles? I mean, these are questions that would have to be answered.
Well, I think the soccer program, the YMCA is willing to expand. They just don't have the physical resource on site to do that. If we were providing the job, I think they would do that. You know, I'm a Y director, corporate director, so I can say, yeah, if funding would be an issue, they want to help. The youth football program is another animal. And I think, my view of it, it has to be companion with the school system, because that's where your feeder system to JV and varsity is. The other,
I mean,
yeah.
these other youth
You know, I think if
soccer
the
or these
Y had,
other-
if the Y had the position, Jason, they can coordinate the gym uses with the Boys and Girls Club for adult, for the adult basketball and with the youth league for adult softball. They could coordinate it, they have in the past. The youth football is the other animal, and who's going to run all these public access points when they're built was Don's position on it.
I mean, we will definitely need some sort of oversight or management of those sites as they're built out, but that's not for tomorrow
That's a
either.
county function, though. If
It's-
it's county property and a county access point, there needs to be a county function to manage it,
For sure.
for sure. I mean, I guess, Paul, I think we're trying to solve, this is just my unknowing brain saying, how do other localities who get these things up and running, whether it's the difference between the utilization of public facilities versus youth programs, you know, how do other communities get them going? Is it coming out of the locality? Is it?
Parks and Rec.
How do localities who don't have Parks and Rec initially take that first step? Are they absorbing it as local government, or are they doing it as a one-off with the school
I
system?
think in some counties, like the youth football, is there's someone in that county who's really
Passionate,
passionate
yeah.
about it, who then coordinates and takes it on and does it. Whereas we don't
But
have
under the
anybody
school
who-
system, though, under the school system,
No.
or under
Well, it's most like
Parks and
these
Rec.
travel balls
It's
or
a,
these other
you know,
small leagues.
Most of them aren't under a
yeah.
school
Oh,
system.
Everywhere I've lived, it's all been under Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're beating a dead horse on the specifics of this, but I mean, I think we can work around strategies that we can work to develop or promote those types of things. And I don't think the board would be against having a coordinator of some kind to manage these things. But there's got to be some sort of, something for that person to do, I think, or a plan in place for these questions that need to be answered.
Each January, I do a mid-year budget review for the Board of Supervisors. I'm just listening to all this. I think maybe at that point, it may be appropriate to bring up this recreational coordinator position during that mid-year budget review to see, gauge what the Board of Supervisors' interest is at that point.
Yeah. Well, these have been identified as critical community needs, and we got to figure out a way, if we want to rebuild this population, we got to have things for adults and kids to do. You know, and these our focus groups have come back and said, we really want these things to happen.
Other than that on recreation, I mean, you've had the draft template, a lot of these projects are in the
Yeah.
works. Don,
Yeah.
where are we on, have
Yeah.
we gotten any more update from our architects and engineers on their master planning of the sites we are working on? And any update on the VMRC permit?
Bay Design Group, our engineering services provider, has given us proposals for the 4 projects that we looked at on site back in September, I believe it was. Have not gotten similar proposals from Guernsey Tingle as of yet. And as far as the VMRC meeting for the Windmill Point project, Craig Palubinsky just texted me and said that it's on the tentative agenda for the December 6th hearing. They have a staff meeting next week on the 15th to finalize the agenda, so we'll know for certain then.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Other than that, I don't think there's any other really major updates to make to the recreation.
No, I think you're in good shape with that. I think we could just, maybe start to even incorporate your work product into this.
Well, quickly on the Driveway Trail, we're continuing to move forward, trying to get ready to go for grants. Over the last 60 days, we've gotten we've gotten another $55,000 in grants. We got a $25,000 grant. I've got a friend named Ashton Williams that lives on Carter's Creek. The Williams Family Trust gave us $25,000. They read the article. She called me and said she'd like to make a contribution. And there's a new resident in Irvington that bought a second home. She runs a foundation in DC called the Arcana Foundation. They made us a $30,000 grant. So it's amazing how people are stepping up and sending us money.
Good.
And it's a county initiative, and we point that out to them, so.
Okay, so it's about 11:30. I usually can stay, but I have to be in Richmond for a 1:30 meeting. So you guys could either continue or we can close it down
I
here.
gotta go too.
If we close it down, Jason, I would like to be able to get with you in the next couple of weeks to start developing the items we've covered, and actually some of the items we haven't covered yet, to further articulate them so we can get some further work at our
I'll
next
take what we
December
got and
meeting.
start to go ahead and work on some rough plans,
Okay.
'cause I think
Yeah.
I can articulate some of these things out myself to
Okay,
real
but,
goals.
but I would like to speak, I'd like to have
Yeah,
some
we can
time with
definitely
you
get
on it.
together.
And you have my cell phone number, right?
Yes.
All right, can you text me the numbers, the telephone, your best contact telephone number
Yes.
then? Okay, all right. So I think we've made a lot of progress. We haven't done this in a long time about going through each one of these strategies. We're only about halfway through. I would suggest we continue to have our December meeting as planned, and we'll further the work that we've covered tonight, and also